Hi, I'm back for a second video. I'm wearing the same clothing because it's 5 minutes after I did the last video. I'm trying to do these things spontaneously because it's such an emotional experience. I feel that if I begin writing things down that it would become really arduous. It's very hard to articulate trauma. I'm still living the trauma, and I'm feeling very emotionally wrought up about what happened to me here. Some of the things are really crazy. You wouldn't even believe. You wouldn't believe, and I frankly am deeply ashamed and humiliated. But I think at the same time, if I don't talk about it, how will anyone ever know so that I can get help? And if I don't talk about it, won't other women fall into the same trap? As I was coming to France for the first real time, because I had visited here in long ago. I had visited here on my way to another place, and I stayed here, and I didn't have like a really horrible experience. It was only a short amount of time. But when I was coming here, an American woman sat next to me on the plane, and she just spoke to me for hours saying, you know, really, you shouldn't come here. I was horribly mistreated here, and it's the worst experience of my life. And she was a beautiful, blonde, educated woman, a lot older than me at that time. And she just begged me, and I thought, who is this lady? Does she think that I'm going to give up coming to France? I mean, her story, I sympathize with her, and I think I'm a very compassionate and empathetic person, but I just simply couldn't relate. I couldn't believe that I myself could ever have a horrible experience. And I got off that plane. It was 1999, I believe, or 2000. I got off the plane, and I had some difficulties with my luggage, and I approached the man, and I asked him. He had an immaculate, complex French uniform on, indicating that he was affiliated with the military, had many medals. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to ask this man. I was a little intimidated, but I thought I'm going to ask him, what should I do with this? Is there any way, you know, where can I resolve my luggage problems? I thought this is a minor question. It was not as though I was asking for any real help from him. And he looked at me and he said, do you like children? Because I would love to make, and he started just spewing out this incredible vulgarity. And that was my first sign that, in fact, a woman of my origins, that means a woman of color, is pretty much in deep trouble coming to this country. It's like leaping off a cliff to go from being an African-American woman in America, where, although you might have difficulties here and there, and I heard that a woman recently was arrested and ended up hung, still, no one tries to, no one thinks that you're just a whore who will sleep with any European man, and no one is accosting you in the street. And you certainly, usually, in legitimate places, there is a good chance that a police officer will help you. Although I feel very sorry for the woman who was apparently accosted by a police officer and punched and beaten in America. But certainly, although that happened, it's horrible, but this happens all the time here, where I don't think that happens all the time in the United States. I want to say that the stature of a woman of color in this country is like nothing I've ever seen outside of Africa, where I've never been to Africa, but I can see that I know a lot about it from having many African friends and acquaintances and reading about Africa. I know that it's difficult for women of color all over the world, but it is extremely difficult in this country to be a woman of color. It is though you have a sign on your head saying whore, or it's a sign saying I'm desperate for a white partner. I mean, you're afforded no respect, no kindness, no courtesy, no goodness. No one is ever when you are in New York. Oh, New York, if you're out there, New York men, hear me and hear me well. You are the most wonderful, kind, and courteous men in the world. As I walk through my native city of New York, if I ever went to get on an elevator, all the men melted back like butter. against the walls to let me go through. Men held doors for me. Men pulled chairs for me. Men helped me on with my coat. And no one ever cursed me. No one ever insulted me. No one ever maligned me. No one ever disgraced me. And no man in New York has ever touched me physically to harm me. Never. And I also lived in LA, and the men there are, sadly to say, I have to be real, they're a lot less gentlemanly. Although, you know, as a feminist, we're not supposed to care, but the reality is that feminism is one thing, and the courtesy and gentlemanliness of men and women to each other is very important to get along. Gender really exists, although you know, I understand that it's very important that gender not be a suffocating factor in our lives, but at the same time it does exist. Men and women do deal with each other, and it's important that they do not harm each other. And here in France, you are harmed. You are harmed. I want to tell you, and this is not really my own personal shocking experience, which I will get to in another video, but I want to say that I'm walking in the train here in Paris, and I hear a woman scream, and I rush over to this little lady, this African lady about 65 years old, and a man is rushing away from her, and she's crying and clutching her stomach. It's because he has punched her full force. A white man has punched an African lady full force in her stomach, and they accost you, they bully you, they harass you, and they make it out that, you know, I know you want me, and that's terrible. That's not true. I mean, you're not going to find your soulmate in a subway or on a street. And so there's no point in them harassing you or bumping into you, or and their attitude towards you is as though you have no respect. You deserve no respect. And so I wanted to say that I'm so deeply grateful that I was born in New York, and until such time as I made the foolish decision of moving to France, I was treated like a princess and like a queen in my country. I was never hurt, never disgraced. My men of every single race, whether it was a Latino man, a man of African origins, African American, or a white person, no white man has ever said anything to me disgraceful or harmed me or hurt me within my country. I know that may be happening in the South, and I'm sad for those people. I don't know actually where it's happening, but I have been exposed to nothing but the greatest courtesy and decency from men of every different ethnicity. And it's tragic. I want to say truly tragic what happens if you come to this country and, you know, you want to just chill out, you want to just relax. You just simply can't do that because there's trouble for you. And that's not the terrible things that happened to me. That's just one of the ongoing factors of being a woman in of origin, African origin, in my case African American origin in this country. It's really quite dangerous. And I want to also say that no police officer ever helps any ethnic woman, whether that is an Asian woman. I have heard of Asian women, they do not even go to the police. If they are hurt, if they are beaten, they do not go to the police, because the police do not help women of color. They do not help women who have color in their skin, and do not help women who have an Asian appearance. They will only help, and I do not think that, they do not help Arab women either. They only help women of European origin, and that only sporadically. The statistics indicate that it is a very sad and dangerous state for women in this country. And so let that be another motivation. I hate to be such a brazen beggar, but I must come home. I must get back to my country. I must go back to New York or LA. And I believe that it would cost me about $10,000 to come back, to ship all of my things back, to get an apartment, to paying first and last, to pay for a plane ticket, and to pay for my transition from this country to back home. And so, as I said, it is about 1 o'clock in the morning here. I'm going to try to post this video as soon as possible, but it's too late to go out and take any pictures of the city. But I assure you, I'm right near Gare de Lyon, And of course I'm in France, and I know that you have no proof of that because you're just seeing these cookie orange walls. But hear me, whoever you are out there, maybe you're not even in America, don't just stand there. Don't let me live like this in France, crushed. I don't even go outside anymore. I live in such fear. And if I do go outside, I'm going to tell you in other videos the crazy cookie things that do happen. And it is the people who live here, they're used to it. African women who live here, they're used to it. And it's so much a step up, and there's so many opportunities for you, for instance, if you're a young mother, that it's worth it. But it is not worth it for a woman who has been an American, who is American. It's not worth it to suffer like this. So please help me to come home. Thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing you in my next video. I hope you remainder of your days wonderful, and talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.